Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of our podcast. Today we thought we'd continue with the niyamas and look at the second one in the series of five, which is Santosha, which I believe means contentment, right, Monica?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It derives from Sam, which means completely, altogether, or entirely. It combines with Tosha, which is contentment or satisfaction or being comfortable. So that is Santosha, and that's what Santosha is all about being comfortable and accepting whatever comes, being content. So this, of course, implies doing one's best and accepting the results of our efforts. And more specifically, it's the state where we are missing nothing. We are comfortable and content with everything that is right here, right now. And I find this very beautiful because generally we tend to always want more. We tend to always not be in the moment, but rather think about what's next. And this is something that truly pains our existence in this day and age. Instead of being in the here, in the now, in the very present moment, we either think we reminisce about the past or we worry about the future. And yoga advises us to be present, to be here and now, to stay still, and be content with what is now. That's what Santosha is all about.
I see your point, and I think it also goes to this way we are, I think, as humans, chasing feelings, chasing happiness, right? Always being like, I'll be happy when this happens, I'll be happy when this other thing happens, right? And then as I think all of us have probably gone through that, you get to that point, right? You get to the point where maybe a few years back you were like, I'll be happy when I get to this point, right? And you get to that point and you're not happy most of the time. So, and this just proves over and over again that we should, you know um practice being content and grateful for the present moment without forever chasing a feeling that is always in the future and you never really get, right? You're always kind of chasing it, you're never really catching it, so to speak. And that is hard. As I said, I think as humans, we do, crave happiness, obviously, and we also feel like something in the future will always be better. It's a way of thinking. And that is, I think, challenging to re-educate basically, and be content with what you have while still working for some other stuff, right? That's not to say, hey, don't have goals, don't improve, don't. But
Definitely.
yeah, but how do you do that in a, I guess, in a more like calm way, right? In a way that actually helps you through that journey, and not in a constant stress or whatever it is, right? Because when you're chasing something, that will add to unease and unrest and anxiety that uh, don't help in achieving any goals, right?
Right. So, Santosha, of course, as we know and as we can find out, is for sure about the state where we neither take too much nor we take less than what we need. It's about taking and taking just what's right, just what's needed. So it means accepting and appreciating what we already have, right? What we have already. So also another very important point that we must make here is that contentment is actually unconditional happiness, the state we're in. We're in a state of contentment. We are practicing Santosha. We don't crave for what's more. We don't miss what was in the past. We are in the present moment, and we dwell in the present moment, and we are rejoicing it. We are enjoying it because here is what we need, and it's here where we are. So actually, it is independence from external conditions. We don't need anything that is outside of our being to be okay, to be happy. We're just content with what it is. It's not a state that comes easily. It's something that comes after being aware of the concept and after practicing, attempting to practice yoga all of its limbs. I have found a beautiful quote from Mahabharata, the sacred writing, right? That says, Santosha is the highest heaven, it's the highest bliss. There's no higher experience than Santosha. When one draws away all his craving desires, like a tortoise drawing in all of its limbs, then the natural resplendence of their soul soon manifests itself. So when one does not fear any creature, nor any creature is frightened by them, when one conquers one's cravings, when one conquers one's aversion, then is one said to behold one's soul. So we get closer to the truth, we get closer to our own inner side, to our own self by practicing Santosha. It's also Bhagavad Gita, the sacred yogi text that teaches us not to look outside of ourselves for happiness, but to actually comprehend and realize and acknowledge that happiness is within. It's within us. So happiness and also peace. So you don't need to seek it outside. When we rely on things that are outside of us to bring us freedom, we inevitably bind ourselves to discontentment, even more. So the wisest thing to do, the preferable, the most comfortable, the winning strategy is to focus on what's already inside us, because contentment is inside us. That is Santosha.
Yeah, and I think that was a very beautiful quote. I've never heard before. But what I was gonna say, if we take all of that, so this is all, let's say, off the mat, almost, right? It's
Yeah.
within your life. I guess if we want to take it specifically on the mat, so to speak, for the yoga practice, I'd say probably in that regard, Santosha would be you being on your mat, okay with where you are in your yoga journey, um, not comparing yourself to others, which is something that we've discussed more about in one of our previous episodes. I think it was about the yoga styles, so I suggest going and watching that one if you want to know more about that. But just in a nutshell here, yeah, it's being okay, I am at this level, this is what I can do, these are the poses I can do, these are the poses I can't, right, or I struggle with, and I'm okay with that. I am not gonna be, embarrassed, or I'm not gonna be sad about it, or I'm not gonna be jealous because the other person next to me can do whatever. Right. So I think that's practicing Santosha on specifically the yoga practice, the mat part.
Yeah, definitely. It's just Santosha on the mat is about being happy with what the body can do right here, right now, and not craving a different stage. So we shouldn't be, we shouldn't downplay what we're able to do now just because we always keep wanting more. We shouldn't fall in that trap. One thing that that made me remain, stay, persist, and love yoga is the fact that when we accumulate practice, when we have discipline, when we are consistent, results will come anyway. So we just need to show up on the mat and do our asana practice or our meditation practice, or whatever, and the progress will come anyway. So it's not about pushing our limits, it's about being happy with what we can do now. That is essential, I find. Yeah, and that is Santosha, because progress will come anyway if you just keep on practicing every opportunity you have. That's how I see it. And that has been
Yeah.
my experience.
Do you have any sort of advice? Because yeah, as you said, right, keep practicing and things will happen, and I think that's the case with pretty much everything, yoga or
Exactly.
non-yoga. But just talking about this specifically, and the brain can be trained, right, and retrained, but it is challenging, it is difficult. So I guess, do you have any advice as to how, I don't know, people could tackle this, right? Because again, it is pretty challenging, and even if you say to yourself, okay, I'm content, I'm happy, it doesn't really it takes a while, and also it might not always work that way, right? So I guess from your perspective, do you have any advice or any tips or tricks as to how you can go about it, or what could help to, yeah, be able to, like, be more content in the moment, let's say. I'm not going to say completely be content all the time, because I think that's that's probably very challenging, but just from time to time.
And not possible. Yeah. No, but I can pass on what one of the teachings, one of my teachers, you know, bestowed upon me, told me, and I've been trying to be mindful about it ever since. It's about not taking things for granted. I know it sounds crazy, but the mere fact that we have something to eat, we have warm water to take a shower, we have the possibility to sleep in a comfortable bed and wake up the next morning and be about our day. This very simple, very basic things that are at the very basis of the pyramid of needs. These simple things that we have access to, it means we are lucky, and we are luckier than some other people in maybe other parts of the world. We obviously are not being grateful for these basic things. We're not taking them seriously. We're taking them for granted. We are not grateful for them because we have integrated them, these basics, we have integrated them so deeply in our being that we're not even aware of them. So we don't care. We just go about our day. We brush our teeth. We drive to the spot that we need, or we take the bus or whatever. So everything comes, not necessarily easy, but feasible, accessible. We have access to a lot of things that we should actually appreciate, because without them, life would be more difficult, harder. Things would be easier, more difficult to accomplish, and problems would be very challenging to solve. But because they are so present and because they're with us every day, we take them for granted. So don't fall in the trap of taking things for granted. Make sure you practice gratitude and realize that the very little things, the very basic things that we have, are essential. Don't stop acknowledging them. Realize that we are lucky. So that is what contentment is. I'm not saying it's something difficult to realize. It's easier to always be discontent and always crave for more, but it's something that yoga brings to us. reminiscing our former episode when we had the dialogue, the beautiful conversation that we had with David Fredrickson. And it was about, you asked him a very specific question about dietary changes when we practice yoga. And he mentioned, yeah, once you practice yoga, things will settle. Your diet will for sure be balanced more and more so. The more consistent you are, the more disciplined you are in the practice of yoga, you will crave for healthier things rather than less healthier things. So what I'm trying to say is that practice yoga and its consequences will come either way. So, yeah, Santosha will reveal itself. You will come to realize that what you have now is still better than a lot of others out there. So,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's that, like, that part that you don't even see, but it's also, I'd say, what I was kind of saying at the beginning of our episode, which is, when you're chasing this feeling of I'll be happy when, then that thing happens and you're still not happy, right? But if you look at your life now, right, and you um, probably are you probably are in the place you wanted to be like 5 years ago when you thought you would be happy, right? If you in 5 years are going to be where you are now, then that is another thing to be grateful for. Although you don't necessarily feel it, it's like, okay, but I've achieved all of this, right? I am where I wanted to be. And I think we all, to a certain degree, can relate to that. I would assume, I don't think there's anyone that like had these kind of thoughts and didn't end up in that place later on.
mm,
And maybe, didn't, at least from my side, I wasn't grateful, right? I'm like, okay, but I still want the next thing, right?
all of
So I
us.
think, yeah, so I think that adds to what you were saying. Be grateful, yeah, for being able to, for having your health, and having the basic needs met, and then also extending that to, um yeah, all the goals that you've achieved, all the life you've lived, right? Everything. So um because those are also things to be grateful for in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly how we practice contentment, how we practice Santosha, right? By continuously cultivating a mind that's free from cravings, from desires. And we should just cultivate the opposite, right? We should focus on finding inner peace and on accepting the world as it is, and even more so, being grateful for what we already have. Um, because by letting go of always wanting more, or wanting something else than we have, that's how we practice Santosha. Um, Being grateful is also something that puts us in a state where we vibe with attracting new things. So instead of focusing on scarcity and what we don't have, by cultivating the opposite, by focusing on the things that we have and being grateful for them, will actually put us in a state where we attract more things, different things, the things we want. It's honestly, it's quite simple. So it's something that reminds me of a concept. It's a cultural concept from Sweden. In the Swedish language, it's called lagom. It means not too much, not too little, just right. So it's just what we need of everything, of anything. Um, if you vibe out with that energy, it's they say the universe will respond in a similar manner. So you will always get what you need, not an excess of it, not that specific item in scarcity, but exactly what you need. So I know in theory it sounds difficult to cultivate, but it comes along with practicing yoga and studying yoga and being mindful about the practice.
Yeah, so I guess all this to wrap it up and say, hey, practice consistently, and
Yeah.
all will all will be well. All will come. You'll see. You just need to, uh, stay consistent, and I guess be a bit open to new possibilities and change for the better.
Of course, and there are also literal physical consequences of you practicing Santosha because you will appear, quieter. You will have this glow of contentment because there's not something that you are reminiscing about that makes you bitter. There's not something that you crave from the future or that you project that makes you frustrated. You are just positive, glowy, and happy with what is now. This is important, and it's a literal consequence that practicing yoga and practicing Santosha specifically has on your physical appearance. So also maybe have that in mind if it's a selling point, for practicing Santosha. But of course. Some other ways to practice santosha. Maybe it's not that easy, right, to be grateful for what we have. So maybe if we had a gratitude journal, or if we took, I don't know, 5 minutes every day to think about the things that are present in our life that make us fulfilled and happy, and that support our existence, and be grateful about them. Maybe enjoy being in our bodies. We have our health, we're good. Maybe we can't do a handstand or a headstand or whatever, but we still can take advantage of the functional abilities of our bodies. We can make it do what we can lift things, we can carry our kids in our arms, we can hug, we can drive a car, we can jump, we can climb a set of stairs or whatever. This is something very basic, but still things that we need to be grateful for, that our peers who are less able-bodied um, can do. So definitely something to be grateful for. Also practicing being calm in front of success and failure, and being practicing, how to put it, equanimity. Equanimity is, I feel the same, I do not oscillate, I am not bipolar, I do not go crazy, and in the next second I don't go down in the dumps, I'm not depressed. So I am steady. That's what Santosha is all about, and that's what Santosha implies. Um, yeah. Or in other words, if something comes, let it come. If it doesn't come, it doesn't matter. We should still be fine with what is here and now, with the body that we have, and the mind that we have.
Yeah, and I think this whole like gratitude journaling thing I've seen quite a bit. It's a trend,
Mm,
which I think it's a good trend actually. But
yeah,
yeah, but it's also challenging at least in the beginning, right? I kind of tried it, and it was let's say the trend there, or the challenge there, was write three things you're grateful for every night. And if you're not the person that usually does that, it's challenging. You're like, well, I don't have three things every night, that I'm grateful for.
for sure. There's one, at least one, right?
But then the more you do it, the more you're like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see things, I'm starting to like notice things I didn't before. and I'm grateful for, right? They don't all need to be like, I'm grateful for like having 10 cars and whatever, right? Like super big things. They can be, I'm grateful that today I had 10 minutes for myself, right? Or whatever. So they can be like really specific things, and you start noticing them more. And they do change your outlook on life as well, right? Instead of focusing, let's say that, I've been working for 4 hours nonstop, you'll be like, but I had those 10 minutes to myself. So
Still
it's the
good.
perspective. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Also, another thing to have in mind about Santosha maybe is that we should be letting go of our need from external validation. This is something that is very human, right? We need to be acknowledged by others and validated by others. But in reality, we should be finding validation from within to realize that we are enough. We are able to do what is needed. We are able to do what we want to do. And we are able to do all the actions that will take us to the goal, to the vision, to the line of horizon that we want to reach. We are capable, and sometimes some of us are not always realizing that, and we always think that we need some external approval to get somewhere. But in reality, the potential is there, the ability, the skill set, the work, the discipline should be internalized. It's already there. We just need to manifest these things. So that's
Yeah, I think this whole acceptance, like I'm liked by peers, I think it
Mhm.
might stem from like our like origins, so to speak, right? Because I would assume that back in the day in the tribe, so to speak, if you weren't
uh,
liked, you were kicked out, right? Or you had to have a community
maybe.
to be liked, right? To be able to survive almost, because obviously if you were kicked out of the tribe, that really narrowed down your chances of survival by yourself, right?
Mhm.
So I guess that was could it's an assumption, um that was, it's kind of a trait ingrained in us, because
Mhm.
yeah, you need to have a community to survive. And then like, even though now, let's say, even now I think it's good to have a community, right? But you can argue you can survive without it. I don't think we've evolved that much, just on a like DNA level, probably, to maybe be able to like completely let go of, oh, I need to be liked by people.
Yeah, connecting with peers is essential, and not having social connections is something that leads to depression and death. And maintaining social relations is essential for one's health and well-being, and especially for our mental health. And to have a life full of contentment. Um, at the same time, we need to believe in ourselves, and it is essential that we accept reality as it is, rather than how we think it should be. So that's where the difference lies, I think. um, Maybe one single other thing to add from my side. Um, by nature, I'm a constant craver and worrier, in the sense that I worry and that I crave. And that I have. Oh, I always have trouble accepting things as they are, and always want for more. This is actually sickness. I'm telling you with all honesty, it's not something that you want to be. It's a self-sabotage. And yoga has helped me understand, to be grateful for what I already have, and to try to focus on appreciating what I already have. Progress will come anyway, and improvements and better things will come anyway if we're grateful for the ones that we already have. I know it sounds maybe bullshitty, but honestly, in my case, it was simply the truth. It was the recipe of getting more if I was grateful, if I were grateful for what I have, it sure put me on the path of obtaining more. So in my case, it was pretty simple, but it took me a lot to get to this realization. So you know, maybe we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. So I find myself in the same sort of
Mm.
group of warriors,
Oh,
and maybe
yeah,
craving, but
yeah.
worrying, right? And I find that it's almost never what I think it is, so to speak, if
Mm.
not never, never. um so that should tell you, oh, stop overthinking, stop over worrying, because you know this. But it's still a challenge, right? It's still like, especially if that's something that
Always.
is within you, to your point, it's still a challenge, even to catch yourself, to be like, oh, okay, I think I'm overthinking right now, and this is not helping anyone, right? It's even that challenge, you have to realize you're doing it, and then to stop, and then when it comes back, that thought, to actually be like, no. And not go on the same similar loop that you've been in before, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
that's I think a challenge for a lot of people. I don't know. Maybe there are people that don't worry. They're probably way less stressed. But uh, but a lot of people that I know do. So yeah.
The more you know, the more you worry. The more things you're aware of, the more you worry. So, of course, this is not an advice, a recommendation to be ignorant, but a recommendation to practice Santosha by being aware of what you already have. Even if you don't have much, you're still luckier than some other people somewhere else. So maybe be aware of that. Those are my final recommendations or final
Yeah.
words about Santosha.
Okay. Last famous words. So or famous last words.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with those famous last words, this is our episode for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. If you made it this far, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time with a new episode. Until then, practice being content.
Practice Santosha.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.